Hello, hello, hello. I think I'm live. Hey, everybody. Hope you are doing well tonight. Yeah, another week. Another week that we're closer to being through 2020, which is lovely. For those of you watching on replay, just a reminder that it will take me 12 to 24 hours to be able to edit ads and description and all that. So if you would like to wait, give it a little while. How long did I say? Give it 12 to 24 hours before that's corrected. Sorry. Setting my alarm today is a high fatigue day, so I'm trying to respect what my body's telling me. So, anyway, welcome everybody. Hello. Hello. Happy Tuesday. Oh, yeah, last week. Well, I will tell you because I listened to certain podcasts. They warned me for like 2 months that what happened last week was likely to happen. So I just told myself I wasn't going to look really at results until Friday, and that led to a very like low stress relatively state of affairs. So I was pleased with that strategy. Because they're saying it'll probably won't be till Friday till we'll have anything. So, yes, I'm glad everybody's having a less stressful evening. Hello. Nice. Good evening. Hey there. Hello. 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 Okay, so tonight we are talking about Nonfiction November, which is an absolutely lovely annual event on BookTube, and it is such a like low stress version of a reading event in terms of like, I mean, I enjoy some of the more elaborate ones, like that can be fun, but it can also be kind of stressful when there's like a bunch of rules and like a bunch of prompts you're trying to get going. And like towards the end of the year, I just appreciate that this is a very chill premise. Oh my gosh, this cat. Sweetie, what is life is just so hard for him today. I don't know why. What was I saying? Oh yeah, it's just like a super chill premise. So basically Nonfiction November, the goal of this readathon or event or whatever is basically to read more nonfiction than you normally do. So if you usually read no nonfiction, read one. If you normally read like 2 or 3 a month, read 3 or 4. Like it's just like very relaxed. This is an event that a Book Olive piloted or runs, and sorry, kitty cat is getting into trouble. Whew, you're just working my nerves today, aren't you, buddy? It is, yeah, this is a Book Olive's baby. So shout out to her. I'll try to remember in the description to link to all her stuff. She's a big nonfiction reader. So anyway, I just thought that we could talk about the books that I've read / am reading / plan to read. I would say that in a normal month, I usually read 2 or 3 nonfiction books. So my goal, I have 2 goals. One is to get to 3 or 4. And the other is I've mostly moved to audio for nonfiction for the most part. And I'm going to try to read a couple in print form because I just don't do that very often anymore. So I thought we could talk about what I'm going to read. And then if people are looking for recommendations, I'm happy to help out. Yeah, we take up a lot of attention these days. It was very funny to see the celebrations around the world. Apologies, just a second. The cat, he's all trouble tonight. Excuse me, sweetie. Did you not? Oh, I see what you're doing. There we go. Oh, sorry. His mouse was caught in a corner and it was very stressful for him. So he is a handful today. I just bought the Inheritance games because of your 5-star predictions video. Yay! I hope you enjoy it. Jennifer Lynn Barnes is just lovely. I really enjoy her stuff. Yeah, I don't do a lot of them. I mean, like, if you watch my channel, you know, I like to set my own challenges. Um, so I've found that it's hard for me to plan to participate in very many readathons because it sort of has to be something I'm in the mood to do. So, but I always do Nonfiction November because it's pretty chill. Can you hear that? This cat. Just wanted to say that you've gotten me motivated to finish strong on my reading goals. Won't get to the initial goal that I set, that's okay. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah. Goals are only fun. Like, they're nice ways to stay motivated. And, you know, for me, I need some like direction to my reading, so it's helpful. But yeah, it's all. Anybody who reads anything, I'm frankly thrilled. Like, most people read no books a year. So anybody who reads like one or more books a year, that's great. Oh, well, I recommend it. Yeah. Killing Lincoln. There you go. Hello. Yeah, I'm definitely much more of an audio person for nonfiction these days. We will get there. Yeah, Hidden Valley Road got a lot of hype this year. And then Killers of the Flower Moon is really good in terms of content. I personally did not enjoy the writing in that one, but I know that I'm in the minority there. Most people seem to really be into the writing, so. Hold for the cat shenanigans. Okay, we're done. Cats have lost office privileges because they're driving me crazy. Now we will hear them meowing plaintively in the background, but that's just, you know, when you make choices, you have consequences. So there you go. Okay. So in terms of my TBR for Nonfiction November, so I've actually already finished one, and that was Cast by Isabel Wilkerson, which is basically historical nonfiction that was arguing that it is more like talking about racial hierarchy in the US is best understood through the language or kind of concept of caste that we most closely associate with India. But also she then makes parallels to the Third Reich. And it was very good. Like the nitpicky book reviewer in me, I think that it could have been an like iconic book if it had been a little tighter, like more tightly argued. But I thought that the writing was really nice. It's one that I've been listening to for a while, and I finally finished it up. So I recommend that one if you're looking for a different kind of book about race in America, and one that I think has a lot of really like helpful descriptive power to it. So I definitely enjoyed that one. Let's see here. Oh my gosh, yes, the cats, they're working my nerves. Also, Markle bit me last week and like caused my entire thumb to swell to like 4 times the size. So already they're both a little bit on my shit list from that. So anyway, it's all good. She got her little paw stuck, and that was my thank you for helping her free. It was a nice bite. So Two Trees Make a Forest. It's a mix of nature writing with family history memoir set in Taiwan. That sounds lovely. There you go. Yeah, nonfiction, I think, is something that people, it's interesting. Like, I think some people only read nonfiction and like kind of judge people who are fiction readers. I think there's that crew. And then I think there's a lot of people who feel like, oh, nonfiction, like, that's too much. I'm reading for fun. I think there's so much really high quality nonfiction these days that it's definitely worth, I think, if you're open to it, exploring. So yeah, I thought it was Martin Scorsese who got the movie rights, but it could have been Spielberg. I don't remember. It would make a fantastic movie. I hope that they do that. Hi to South Carolina. Nonfiction November recommendation is After the Last Border by Jessica Godot. Well, lovely. I've never heard of that one, but there you go. I'll Be Gone in the Dark is absolutely so good. It's very creepy though, so prepare. And then yeah, Caitlin Doughty. Last year I read what is it, Secrets from the Crematoria, or what, her first one. So no, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, that's what it's called. And I definitely enjoyed it. Yes, the cats lost their privilege. So there you go. Nice. Yeah, well, Cast came out in August, so let's see here. Yeah. Oh, okay, good. Yes, I did. That's what I thought. And it comes out next year. Okay, so it's not just in development. I wasn't sure if it was actually going to get made or not. Okay, so Cass is the one that I've already read. I'm currently reading, let's see, I'm currently reading Black Reconstruction in America, 1860 to 1880 by W.E.B. Du Bois. And it's very, very good. It's long. It is sort of the kind of classic or seminal work on that period of American history. It was written, I think, in the 30s by W.E.B. Du Bois, who is, a great American thinker. And again, historical nonfiction is something I really enjoy, and it's a classic of nonfiction that I've been meaning to get to, so I've been saving it for Nonfiction November. So that is my current read, and honestly, it's going to take me a while to get through because it's like a big, beefy book. So let's see here. Old in Art School. I've not heard of that. It is an interesting title, I agree. Nonfiction books with romance. In terms of a romantic story, I would recommend My Life in France by Julia Child, because a lot of it is about her very swoony relationship with her husband. Or there's plenty of literary studies of romance that are great. I think A Natural History of Romance by Pamela Regis is a good one that I would recommend. Word Slut, A Feminist Guide to Taking Back the English Language. Well, I love that title. I'm glad to hear it's good. I really like that title. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, Agatha Christie, it's a worthy endeavor. Just finished up A People's History of the United States, a really great broad strokes view of American history. I honestly started it in college, but it finally made my way back around to it. I feel like I've read at least parts of that book, but I think I never read the whole thing. I read excerpts of it for school, but I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it. Just finished Bad Feminist, my first Roxane Gay. Liked it so much. Yay, I love Roxane Gay. She's a favorite. I used to think nonfiction was drab, but I searched wider and I've read several great ones since. Yeah, I think nonfiction is like any other genre. You have to do some work to figure out what you like in it. But there's so much narrative nonfiction these days that even if you really want something that reads like fiction, it's definitely out there. I mean, Bad Blood by John Carreyrou, I think reads like fiction. Catch Me If You Can by Ronan Farrow from last year, I think reads like fiction. There's plenty that you don't even have to I mean, that it's nonfiction, but you just get immersed in the story the same way you would in fiction. So aside from, there's definitely more nonfiction that's more on the informative end, but there is plenty that reads just like a story. So there you go. Yeah. Yeah, history, it can take a while. So The Bomb by Fred Kaplan. And it's approachable overview of USA's nuclear bomb policy. Good to know. I like interesting history. Oh yeah, I've heard great things about Just Mercy. It's one I keep meaning to get to and just haven't yet. Good nonfiction book says good place. Again, I think it really depends on kind of what you're interested in. I mean, I'm somebody who tends to really like historical nonfiction, so that's where a lot of my recommendations come from, or sort of sociological nonfiction, investigative reporting. That tends to be my preference, but it would kind of just depend on what your preferences are. Narrative nonfiction wise, I think Eric Larson's a good go-to. Michael Lewis is a good go-to. Eric Larson is more history. Michael Lewis is sort of business related stories or sports related stories. And then the two I mentioned, Bad Blood by John Carreyrou and Catch Me If You Can by Ronan Farrow, both of those I think are pretty friendly points of entry. Presently reading Dangers of a Shallow Faith by A.W. Tozer. There you go. Okay. Other ones. Okay, so those are the two that I've read or am currently reading. The ones that are on my TBR that are in physical form. First, I have How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy by Jenny Odell. This is one that I started back when I first got sick earlier this year. And it was my bedtime book, and I kind of just like lost track of it. So I've come back to it, and it is, again, my bedtime book. So like I read like 10 pages of this before I go to sleep. And it's basically philosophy, I would say. And it's sort of a philosophical musing about how our current, especially like with social media and stuff, everything is set up to really just constantly keep your attention, or specifically in the US at least, I don't want to speak to other contexts, but there's this real premium on the idea of being busy and like having a lot of sort of kind of pride and feeling like you're always busy and you're always being productive and you're always being essentially like this capitalistic unit. And she basically is musing on that and kind of counter arguing against it. So I'm enjoying this. And like I said, it's sort of my bedtime book. It's a good, nice little, almost like a little philosophical devotional or something before I go to sleep, which I've been enjoying. Let's see here. Yeah, that's another one that I keep meaning to read. I've heard absolutely great things about it, but I haven't gotten to that one yet. Let's see here. Lost in Shangri-La. Yes, I've not read that one, but I've heard good things about it. Yeah, there's some really good like survivalist nonfiction. That's like a fun subgenre. Let's see here. A light, quick nonfiction book and likes her music. Sarah Bareilles wrote a short memoir called Sounds Like Me, My Life So Far in Song. I really enjoyed it, especially the audiobook. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I think that can be, if you have somebody who, like a celebrity or whatever that you're interested in, that can be, I think, a pretty good route to get into nonfiction, of just see if they have a memoir. Or especially, I think, funny people tend to write pretty good memoirs. Like, what's Tina Fey's? I forget what Tina Fey's book was called, but that was a really fun memoir, and she read the audiobook and did a great job with it. I listened to The Only Plane in the Sky by Garrett Graff. It was great. It's about 9/11 and survivors tell their stories. That's super interesting. Yeah, I like an oral history. Okay, another cosign on, let's see here, Born a Crime. Yeah, I've heard pretty much nothing but great things on that one. Yeah, lots of love. I want to listen to the audiobook because I've heard the same thing, that he does a great job reading it, but I think it's only available through Audible. Am I wrong about that? I heard somebody saying you can't get it through the library. Recommendations for a biography. I can tell you the next biography I'm going to read is one called Frederick Douglass by, I believe, David Bite or David Blight. I heard him on a podcast and just totally got entranced by everything he was saying about Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass is a figure I've always wanted to learn more about. So that's the next one up on my list. But probably my favorite biography I've read is Stephen Greenblatt's biography of William Shakespeare, which is called Will in the World. I really love that one. So the Constellations of Philosophy by Alain de Baton. It's an accessible intro to a few major philosophers. I'm also listening to an audio called The History of Western Art. Oh, I would enjoy The History of Western Art. That was one of my favorite classes I took in undergrad. Ben McIntyre does fun narrative historical nonfiction, writes mostly about spies and spycraft. Ooh, that does sound fun. Military nonfiction. Keep hearing Stephen Ambrose of Band of Brothers fames as a literary god when it comes to military stories. Military nonfiction is not necessarily something that I'm super interested in. I will tell you, when I worked at Borders, like Stephen Ambrose was the number one that I would direct like dads to. I feel like dads tend to really love military nonfiction, especially about the Civil War. I don't know if that's just because I was in the South, but yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard good things about him. I would say like possibly as if you're looking for like Steve, if you're wanting to go like pick an author who's going to be good, yeah, like a Stephen Ambrose, or you could probably do some, a little bit of research and figure out who else is considered to be pretty good. But you could also just go with like pick a historical event you're really interested in and do some Googling and see what kind of books have been written about that historical event. And that can be a good way to get into things. Yes, Bossy Pants. Thank you. That was Tina Fey's memoir. Yeah, I've heard Born Standing Up is great. Oh, I've heard that too. Yeah, Carrie Elwes's memoir. I've heard that is just so fun. Yes, Bossy Pants. How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. There you go. Yeah, Princess Bride is great. Oh yeah, Unbroken is great narrative nonfiction, and I guess that would count as military nonfiction, right? So there you go. Bleaker House by Nell Stevenson is a fantastic writer memoir where she isolates herself in the Falkland Islands to finally write a book. It's incredibly atmospheric. There you go. Oh, yes. Okay. Know My Name by Chanel Miller is such a good memoir. I've heard wonderful things about that. It is pretty heavy topic because she is the Jane Doe of the Brock Turner case. So I've been this year I just don't feel like I've had it in me, but it's on my TBR because I've heard it's wonderful. Dinner with Edward by Isabel Vincent. It's another biography recommendation. Oh, that's a fun idea. I used to pick nonfiction books on countries I knew little about. That's how I came across Nothing to Envy, Everyday Lives of North Koreans, that follows defectors during the 90s. Oh, that's a great recommendation. Yeah, I used to read a lot of travel nonfiction, especially about France. And Italy, I guess. So I feel like I've read a lot about those two countries, but not as much about. I would like to read. I like that as an idea of just like picking a country you're interested in and trying to find a good nonfiction book about it. Oh, Braiding Sweetgrass is so good. That was my bedtime book for a while. Or no, not my bed. I would listen to that while I was getting ready in the morning. Because it reads like poetry almost. It's nature writing. And yeah, it is really beautiful. There you go. That's a classic one. Yes, okay. It's David Blight is the author I was talking about earlier. Black Count by Tom Rees, yes, about Alexandre Dumas' father. Yeah, I remember that was a big one when it came out. Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, Agatha Christie's autobiography is very charming if you're looking for that genre. Okay, the other physical nonfiction on my TBR is so boring, guys. It's called The 7 Acts of Courage, Bold Leadership for a Wholehearted Life by Robert E. Staub. I am reading this because I need to get some extra hours for ongoing accreditation for a professional certification I have, and this counts because it's about leadership, so not an interesting story, but that is the truth of the matter. One of my friends gave this to me and recommended it, so I'm expecting that it'll actually be, pretty good for what it is, but not super scintillating in terms of nonfiction, a little bit more just useful nonfiction. So that's my like real TBR. Or I guess actually one more because I just got it from the library. It just came up. Is Should Actually by Lindy West, which I think will be fun. I really like Lindy West's writing in general. I've read 2 books from her and I enjoyed both of them. And I think this one is sort of like humorous cultural criticism. So I think it should be a good time. So that's, I guess, kind of rounding out my true TBR for Nonfiction November. Though I do have 2 other ones that I'm thinking about getting to if I have time. Let's see here. The Last of the Doughboys by Richard Rubin is a very good World War I book. Okay. The author interviewed a lot of surviving World War I soldiers to compile it. I read it a couple years ago for Nonfiction November. Great. There's also, on that topic, just because whenever I get a chance to promote this, I want to take it, is I saw the Peter Jackson documentary that he did on World War I, which I believe is called They Shall Not Grow Old, and I cannot recommend it enough. It is so good. He basically took a bunch of extant footage from World War I and corrected the speed of the frames, because you know how like in the really old-timey video footage, like they all look really herky-jerky because the timing is off from what we're used to seeing now in video. So he corrected the speed, and then he also had it colorized. Like they spent all this time researching how to like colorize it properly, and then they got lip readers to like figure out what people in the footage are saying. So it humanizes the actual soldiers of World War I in a way that I had never seen before, and I just like loved it. So anyway, that's just a bonus documentary recommendation. I saw that in the theater when it came out, and me and my mom both like loved it. I guess it's been 2 years since that came out, but I highly recommend They Shall Not Grow Old. Travelogue, check out Travels with Charlie by John Steinbeck as he went on a road trip with his dog, which is very charming. I have this one too, William. Poirot and Me by David Suchet. Maybe we'll see how this month goes. That sounds actually so lovely. I may try to sneak that one in as well. Okay, and then another one that I don't know if other people will be very interested in, but I'm very excited to get to, is called The Deficit Myth by Stephanie Kelton. Stephanie Kelton is like one of the lead, I want to call her an economic philosopher. She's not that. She's an economist, but she's one of the lead proponents of essentially fundamentally changing how governments think about monetary theory. So traditionally, and I don't know how it is in other countries, in the US, we're constantly getting into this like question about the deficit and like our national budget. And if we are overspending or underspending or whatever. And basically what she argues is that mindset is designed to keep the majority of people from getting access to government services that we easily could afford, but we are allowed, like basically the government keeps people in the mindset of their budget working the same way a household budget works. And she's basically arguing that like that is just like fundamentally not true. And actually a great recent example of this is the stimulus or the relief from all the stuff happening with the plague. Where did that money come from? Well, the government creates it and then it's there. So anyway, it's like the whole, like it's a layman's argument about how that works. And I'm sure most of you don't care about that, but I'm interested in that topic and I'm interested in that idea. So that's on my list. Yes, I do indeed know that. That's why I'm interested in the book. And then the last one that I may get to is by Sabrina Strings, and it's called Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia. And this is another historical nonfiction one that I had recommended to me, and it just sounds super interesting. It's a history of exactly what it says, the racial origins of fat phobia, and essentially the history of how Black bodies have been depicted in art and sort of talked about, philosophized about, anxieties around it, specifically with how that feeds into fat phobia. So I think that that sounds interesting. So that is another one that I may get to. Worldly Philosophers is fantastic. It's an overview of major figures of economic thought and their theories. Very accessible and easy to read. Great recommendation. I know some people don't care about that kind of nonfiction, but I do find it interesting. And it's actually, I think it's actually really important because, at least, for example, here in the US, there's all these conversations about what it costs to do something like Medicare for All. And I think if we could change the narrative about the reality of how money works, some of those conversations become not relevant. So yes, science-heavy epidemiology and public health. I love that too. One of my favorite kind of like intersections is I really enjoy the history of science. So like Age of Wonder, I forget who wrote that, but I really enjoyed that book. The Big Fat Surprise by Nina Teicholz. I read, what is it called? Is it called The Great Influenza? Is that what it was called, by John and Barry this year? That was really enjoyable. So yeah, I feel you on that. Yeah, I think knowledge is power. So even if it makes you mad, at least it's interesting. Yeah, Suchet is kind of the iconic Poirot. So yeah, so that is my TBR for Nonfiction November. I'm already well into it, and I encourage folks, if they, even if you read 0 nonfiction normally, if you read just 1, you have taken part in Nonfiction November. So if folks have requests for any other recommendations, we can do that. Otherwise, that's my TBR. But yeah, I appreciate a book olive trying to make space and highlight nonfiction. I know it definitely gets kind of overlooked mostly on BookTube, I feel like, but nonfiction is wonderful, and it's a great way to expand. Like, I definitely love podcasts and articles, but I do think that there is something to be said for spending a sustained amount of time thinking about something through nonfiction, in terms of like how that can shape you as a thinker, etc. The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks is a great science history book. Yeah, that's a great example of that kind of intersection. How to Survive a Plague, the inside story of how citizens and science tamed AIDS. It's a great health and science-based nonfiction book. That's a great recommendation. It is called The Deficit Myth by Stephanie Kelton, I believe is her last name. Yeah, Stephanie Kelton. Oh yeah, Evicted. That is a great book. Similar to Evicted, I'm trying to think of a good sociological. Actually, do you know, it's not like 1-to-1, but the same kind of vibe, or like intersection between reportage and sociology, is No Visible Bruises by Rachel Louise Snyder. Now, I definitely give you content warnings there, because it is about domestic violence, and it's, I would say, not an easy read, but it gave me a similar kind of vibe as Evicted did. So that's the one that comes to mind. Wait, sorry. Management and HR. I don't know that I have any for HR, but management books. I read one last year that was pretty good called Multipliers. I forget who the authors were, but basically it was talking, it's basically an argument against micromanagement, and kind of really outlining why micromanagement is a way to like very much stifle productivity. So I thought that was helpful. It had like helpful language in it, I thought. Just Mercy, I had to keep on stopping for a bit. Yeah, sometimes in nonfiction you do kind of gotta pace yourself with it. A personal growth book I would recommend. I'm hesitant to recommend those kinds of books to people. The one that I do feel okay recommending is The Four Tendencies by Gretchen. I think her last name is Wells. I don't remember. Gretchen somebody. Rubin? Gretchen Rubin's. I like, and I think she also did The Happiness Project. I feel okay about recommending her. In general, I do struggle with, I enjoy some personal growth books. I do struggle with the whole kind of underlying idea of sort of manifestation that comes with a lot of them, because I think that they are often, while I think that there's some truth to that, I also think that they're very tone deaf to the economic and like systematic injustice realities. So there's some that, while I think they can be helpful and motivational, they have a certain level of just like complete lack of acknowledgement of privilege, and an overemphasis on an individual's ability to overcome systematic obstacles. So I hesitate to recommend books in that ilk in general. I don't think The Four Tendencies does that, so I'm okay recommending that one. That was probably a more detailed answer than you were looking for, but I do like some books like that, but I do just want to be sensitive that I think they can make, I don't know. I'm just uncomfortable with some of the subtext of kind of the philosophical position they are taking. So, The Hot Zone. Okay, thank you for, actually, thank you so much for reminding me. This is a book that I keep meaning to read and keep not doing. I'm going to my library app right now and putting it on my wish list. Sorry. Do you guys have books like that that you just keep meaning to read and then just keep forgetting? Okay, thank you. Yeah, nonfiction was doing great this year, which is cool. I like that it's having a moment. Got to find the silver lining where we can. Radium Girls, yeah. Ooh, I want to say Bad Blood just because it's a similar like health related conspiracy by John Carreyrou. It's not as historical. That's the one that comes to mind. But if people have other ideas, Radium Girls is about the women who are working in a factory, I think in the Northeast somewhere in the US. And basically they were painting clock faces with paint that had radium in it. And they were licking the paintbrush they were using all day to keep the point fine. And so like they all became irradiated. And then there was like a cover up and it's a whole thing. Yeah, I was online for it at the library. It came up for me and then I couldn't read it when I had it. So now I'm like number 8,000 on the list again. So someday. Historical biographies on historical figures outside the US and the UK. Yeah, especially if you're reading in English, sometimes it gets tricky. But the one earlier, or were you the one who was recommending The Black Count? You may have been the one recommending that, but you know, that's an example. Oh, good. I hope enjoy is a weird word for it, but I hope you find it edifying. Oh, okay, yeah. Why Does He Do That by Lundy Bancroft was a fantastic book about domestic violence written by a counselor who works with abusive men. Good to know. Can't Hurt Me memoir by David Goggins. Okay, from a Navy SEAL. Burnout. Yeah, that's another one that's been on my radar that I haven't gotten to yet. I really enjoyed Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski, which is a book about female sexuality. I would very much recommend. So I really like her as a writer. Yeah, exactly. I think, okay, it's good to know because I've been wanting to get to that, but I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, yeah. Maybe You Need to Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. Yeah, I've heard great things about it. I feel like half the time I'm just like, yeah, I've heard great things about that. But I mean, at the end of the day, one cannot read every book. So, you know, sometimes all I can say is, yes, that looks interesting to me too. As with The Five, that one is about the 5 women who are the victims of Jack the Ripper. And I appreciate them being kind of repositioned as, I don't know, like essentially trying to like reclaim the narrative of like Jack the Ripper is not this romantic, like sensationalized character. He was like a horrible person who did bad things to these 5 actual real women. The Poisoner's Handbook by Deborah Blum mentions the Radium Girls and is set in Jazz Age New York with similar investigations. Okay, there you go. Robert K. Massey's Russian biographies are fantastic. Yeah, didn't he have one on Catherine the Great a couple of years ago? Yeah, I heard that that was good. Mao the Unknown Story, if you're interested in Chinese history. Great recommendations. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Yeah. Okay, so I think I'm running out of steam here. There's one I want to read that I heard Books and Lala recommending, and the title of it is escaping me right now. I want to say it's called Dispel, but that doesn't sound right. Does anybody remember it's like a collection of um short, not like of essays, I guess, about different types of disability. I'm so sorry, I can't remember what it's called right now. Yes, maybe Disfigured? Is that what it's called? Um, yes. Oh, sorry, looking at Goodreads to see if I recognize this cover. Yes. Okay, yeah. It is Disfigured. Thank you, Anne Marie. Coming in clutch. By Amanda LeDuc. In fairy tale, let's see. In fairy tales, happy endings are the norm as long as you're beautiful and walk on two legs. After all, the ogre never gets the princess. And since fairy tales are the foundational myths of our culture, how can a girl with a disability ever think she'll have a happy ending? By examining the ways that fairy tales have shaped our expectations of disability, Disfigured will point the way toward a new world where disability is no longer perceived as a punishment or impediment, but operates instead as a way of centering a protagonist and helping them to cement their own place in the story, and from there, the world. So that is one that's on my radar. I've not read it, but it came very highly recommended from Kayla at Books and Lala. Oh, okay, yeah. Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing for nonfiction. I want it to both be an interesting story and to love the writing for me to fully just like love it. So I have read nonfiction that I wouldn't necessarily recommend because as a book, I don't think it works, even if I found the content interesting. So, yes, okay, yeah, coming in clutch, guys. Oh, okay, and Karen read it and said it was interesting. Yeah, Mary Roach is an author whose voice doesn't connect with me, but I know a lot of people really love her, so she's definitely worth looking into. You're welcome. So yeah. Okay, guys, like I said, I'm sorry. Today is a high fatigue day for me, so I think I can feel myself running out of juice here. But thank you for joining me. I think we'll still have live stream next week. I think I'm going to do another round of very specific book recommendations. So I have them from last time. Um, that people submitted through Instagram, but I'll also open it up again on Instagram if people want to ask for specific book recommendations. So we'll do that next week in live stream. Oh, okay. Shout out to Jen Campbell. Is epilepsy. Oh, interesting. I always get it's too many books and not enough time. Oh, thank you, Kay. Yes. Oh, okay. Invisible. I need to, now that I have chronic illness, I need to look into this a little bit more. I think that is a good topic for me to investigate for nonfiction. Yes, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Have a great night, guys. Happy reading, and we will talk again next week. Next video pre-recorded is up Thursday. Bye.